I have this from a single source, so I can't vouch to the veracity of it right now. But given what has been said and what we can see, it is plausible. So we're going to continue to watch this. And that is that the claim is that during this phone call that President Trump conveyed a ultimatum to Zelensky that he got from Vladimir Putin. And apparently Putin gave him these terms. He said, look, just give him these terms here that this is what we want to have happen. The war has to come to an end. And either we're going to continue to fight until we win everything, or so goes the story, is that we might allow a negotiated end if these certain things are happening. And one of which is that Zelensky has to end martial law and hold presidential elections. Now, we don't have to wait long to find out if this part's true, because in just 10 days from now, the current the martial law decree will run out. And the way it works in the Ukrainian law, and it has since 2022, I forget the exact duration of it, 6 months, 4 months, 3 months, I can't remember, whatever the duration, it's relatively short. Every time it comes up, it has to be renewed, meaning they can't just say we're on martial law indefinitely and we'll get back to you later. They actually have to renew it every time. And so far, of course, they have. But because of the way the Constitution is written, they can't have presidential elections so long as martial law is in effect. And there's a whole host of things that goes along with that from the Ukraine side, that not having martial law would change a lot of the wartime rules that they have and things they can do in terms of forced mobilization, etc. But the Russians are saying you're going to have to end martial law and hold elections, according to this description here. We'll find out if that's the way it is. And apparently Trump's deal, apparently also with Putin, is that if he agrees to that and agrees to hold elections, then I'm going to give him more air defense missiles until that time to limit the amount of damage. That's what is being reported is part of the deal, and why Trump would be giving him some of these interceptor missiles as long as he does this other part here. Otherwise, and that's why Trump didn't commit to doing it, only that we're going to talk about it, because I'm sure that in a phone call, Zelensky certainly is going to agree to a ceasefire, or isn't going to agree to end the martial law and agree to have elections, because that's what people have been trying to get him to do for years, and he's been unwilling every other time. What we don't know yet is it finally starting to dawn on Zelensky that even in his delusional state and his unwillingness to acknowledge reality, that it's imposing itself on him anyway. I mean, just in these last couple of shows that we put on for you here, the one that Gary showed you at the top of this show with all these destruction around the Kharkiv, and then the one to Kiev the other night, obviously right there in Zelensky's front yard. I mean, you don't have to see too many more of these to realize. And of course, this is not just a fire. It's not just a hit. This was on an important military facility. So this hurts a lot more. And I'm going to show you in just a second why this one hurts more than just the imagery that's going on here. But that imagery alone is quite compelling when you realize that with or without any more interceptors from the United States, you're not going to be able to stop this stuff. There's enough aerial attacks coming in from the Russian side that it's going to get through no matter what. Maybe it's slightly lower density, but it's still going to get through, and you're still going to get this stuff because Russia can just fire. If you have 5 interceptor missiles for a given target, they'll fire 10 drones. And if you have 10 interceptor missiles, they'll fire 20 drones. I mean, they're going to get through to their intended targets because they have the resources, because they have the ability and the missiles themselves and the production capacity to keep cranking them out. That's the situation here. Now that's at the strategic level here. And interesting, you talked about the delusionary issue of Zelensky. The day before this phone call, he still is showing he has no interest and no thought process whatsoever in ending the war. In fact, he's trying to ramp up business as though he thinks that there's something to do on the other side of a victory.
Я дякую всім компаніям і підприємцям, які підтримують український захист, які підтримують українську стійкість. Ми сьогодні говорили про те, що важливо, коли компанії виходять з російського ринку і працюють саме тут, в Україні. Ми також будуємо нову мережу співпраці з Америкою та багатьма іншими країнами на основі спільних можливостей у розвитку промисловості, технологічних секторів.
So you can certainly see there. I mean, that's something that you would do if you were the victor. That's something that you would do after you were fighting a war and maybe it had come to end on a negotiated settlement. Maybe you'd won something like that, where basically, okay, the war is over here, and now that we're going to start rebuilding our country, we're going to rebuild our economy. So I need to bring in, people that can help us do it. And I think we showed you that a picture the other day, a couple of days ago, about all the different companies that were in this big circle that Gary's showing you right here. And it wasn't just defense contractors. It wasn't just folks who were going to build missiles and bombs and that kind of thing, but also McDonald's, MasterCard, just several other regular companies. And that is just bizarre. Yeah, that's the one right there. So, you've got McDonald's, MasterCard, Boeing, of course, GM Holding, IBM, just any number of things here. Cisco Systems. Listen, you can do that kind of thing if you have an end of a war. But when you're on the losing end of it and it's continuing to go against you, this is bizarre. Now, it's bizarre too for these companies to have gone. I'm not sure what their intent was, because they should be able to just, I don't know, read the room or a little bit, or read a map, I guess. That would help if they're looking at a map. I don't know. It's just bizarre that why so many people in the West are so detached from reality, while the Russians are just myopically and locked in focused on winning a tactical and an operational and strategic military victory. Whether that conversation between Putin and Trump actually included an ultimatum for Ukraine that Trump passed along, only time will tell on that. But what we know from what Putin has said publicly and openly, he said we're going to have a negotiated end that we're satisfied with, or we will win a military victory on the battlefield. Plain as day. Nebenzia said it. Sergei Lavrov said it. All the key Russian folks are emphatic about saying it. If people are listening, and it almost appears that they don't, or else that we're still, as I think Commodore Germany has said several times, the West is operating on a narrative and the Russians are operating on reality. And maybe it's as simple as that. It's hard for me to cognitively understand how, despite one's preference and what we'd like to see happen, that we just keep detaching ourselves from reality and clinging to this fiction in light of an advancing Russian